Hello, Dog TV Pack. Joe Myers here, hanging out. We have an incredible guest today. I want to wait a little bit. So if you're there, give us a nice thumbs up or a heart, just so I know you're there and so we can start our session today about eliminating stress and boredom with your dog. Obviously, what's happening outside of the world. This is a perfect time to talk about this. So please, if you have any questions about what we're going to talk about today, Contra Freeloading, please put them in the comments. We'll get to them throughout this process. If you have any questions about your dog or how this process can help them, please feel free to include. But without any further ado, I want to welcome my guest today, Kristen Levine. Welcome, Kristen.
Hey, Joe. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Kristen is everywhere in the pet industry. She has so many titles. She is the founder of Pet Living Blog, an influencer, a brand ambassador, a board of directors, and she is absolutely incredible. If you know anything about the pet industry, you've probably read one of Kristen's articles or seeing her or hearing her interview somebody in the industry. So welcome, Kristen.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
Excellent. So today we're going to talk about an interesting topic that I was not aware of before this came on my thing, but I was able to research a little bit, learn a little bit, some top line knowledge, and Contra Freeloading, eliminating stress and boredom in your pet. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Contra Freeloading. It's a long word. It's a scientific word that I would guess that most of us aren't familiar with. And I wasn't familiar with it either until about 3 years ago when I had a chance to interview a scientist that works for Purina. And she was explaining to me that Contra Freeloading is, in scientific terms, it's an observed behavior among animals that when most animals, and I know that includes dogs and cats, but I'm not sure what else most includes. But in most animals, when they're given the choice to choose between just, a bowl of kibble or food that they have to work for, they will always choose the food they have to work for. So it's just really a simple way of saying, like your pet would rather work for food than, just have the unchallenging bowl put in front of them. And what's cool about this, and I think even though people probably have never heard the word Contra Freeloading, it's really just about, it's most often implemented through food games, food puzzles, treat toys, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of dog owners now are pretty familiar with those types of toys, but there are just so many advantages to using them as a way to feed your dog.
Interesting. Do you recommend, or does the industry recommend that for every feeding, it's a type of, Contra Freeloading of doing the puzzle and the toy games?
Yeah, I've read a lot of articles about it, and there are a lot of, veterinarians that certainly encourage you to implement the practice of, and we don't have to keep saying Contra Freeloading. It's really just about finding clever, enriching ways to feed your dog. I don't know that there's like any mandate or you must do this, but it's, at our house, Chili eats twice a day. He eats breakfast around 6 and dinner around 5. And of course he gets some healthy treats in between, but we no longer put the bowl of kibble down for him. So we use things like, this is a obviously from Kong. This is a treat feeder or a food feeder from Kong, where you just, you unscrew it. We put his kibble in it, crash. And
hopefully everything's okay there.
Hopefully, yeah, I think I might have broke my keyboard, but that's okay. And then he just wobbles this thing around, and this will keep him busy for 15, 20 minutes. And he loves it. He's almost obsessive about it. And then this is actually his favorite one. You can get any of these online. You just unscrew it and you put the kibble in the bottom like so. And then I like this one because you can adjust the size of the hole.
Yeah.
Because the key is you want the hole to be big enough for the kibble to fall out of, but you don't want it to be so big that it's just tumbling out of it. So your pet, gets to eat it all too quickly. You know what? I honestly think he likes this one the best because it's the noisiest.
tries to annoy you, or
oh my gosh, it makes so much noise, which I actually kind of get a kick out of. Like, I like hearing him knock this around the house.
Yeah.
But if I'm working, that's not going to work. If I am on a Facebook Live like this, or doing a phone call with a client, I can't do that. So you can also find these nice silent ones. I think this came in his BarkBox subscription, but there's tons of these rubber treat feeders that you can use when you need a more quiet way to feed your dog. You just slip the treats in there. And you know what else I do, Joe? Chili gets a supplement every day from All In. It's a life stage supplement. He's a senior now, so I want to make sure he's getting proper nutrition. Sure. And even though he likes the supplement, and most of the time he'll take it from my hand, I've just started putting it in here with the kibble. And so he doesn't know the difference.
So what do you say to those dog parents like myself? And I'm regrettably #use a bowl. What do you say to dog parents who are like, hey, my dog eats every day. The bowl is, my grandparents used a bowl for my dog. And all those people who are not on, I don't know if anyone would say that. Maybe who would say #ditch the bowl. Let's
right.
Yeah, maybe we'll call it #ditch the bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
Those people who are just like, hey, we've been doing this for ever. Every dog I've known done it. They're fine. Why?
Right. Well, that's a great question. And I guess simply put, it's there's nothing wrong with feeding from a bowl. Obviously make sure you're not feeding them too much, but your dog is completely unchallenged by a bowl of food. And this is a way that you can insert physical and mental activity into eating, which burns calories and exercises their brain. And, I think it also, helps to solve boredom. I don't know about your dog, but Chili, if I put a bowl of kibble down for Chili, he'll be done in about, 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. But if I put his kibble in a treat toy, it's going to take him probably 10 to 15 minutes. And I usually, break it up into portions. Like, it's not all in there at once. So I know he's getting more mental exercise and more physical exercise. He's not as, I've actually seen him go lay down after he finishes, because he's like, whew, that was a lot of work.
That was tough. Like you chasing a steak to grab it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you have to think about, just nature in general. Like, our dogs, before they were domesticated, had to hunt for their food, catch their food, and tear it apart and whatever. That was a lot of work. And so this is just kind of a way of tapping into that instinct and getting them a little bit more enrichment out of having their meal.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's one element of their life where you can add a little bit of that mental and physical stimulation so that they feel like you're not just like, here you go. I know my dog, Mickey, we give him the bowl and he just kind of looks at it like, okay, I'll get around to
again.
I'll get around to it, and he eats it later.
Right.
But I think with something that's a little more engaging and enriching, he might feel like, ooh, now I got something to do.
True. It's true. It just makes it more interesting. And for that reason, I would say, even if you have a picky eater, this might be a way of engaging your picky eater. Now suddenly that boring bowl of wet food or kibble just got really interesting. And speaking of, I didn't really address wet food yet, but there obviously you don't want to put wet food in one of those treat toys, so you'll have a great big mess. But you can take wet food, and I pulled out this little muffin pan from my kitchen drawer. This would be good for a smaller dog. You could put the wet food, actually big dog too. You could put some of their wet food in all the different cups, so they kind of have to work it out. You can also, instead of giving them like their regular size bowl, you can take little bowls and put a little bit of their wet food and hide them around the house. So now they're having to, where'd she put it this time? They have to go look for it. So yeah, I mean, that is really the benefit, is you're engaging your dog's brain and body in a way that will help them to reduce boredom, that will help, reduce weight gain, and I was even reading too that it can affect their social skills. Like a dog that is bored, a dog that doesn't get enough mental and physical exercise and stimulation, how do you think they're going to act with people? They're going to be like, oh, they're going to be all goofy, and they have all this pent up energy.
Yep.
So it really hits a lot of those really great benefits.
100%. And obviously people are home now more for obvious reasons. So it's a good time to maybe start this a couple of times. You've certainly convinced me. He will definitely get his dinner in a more engaging fashion. We'll try to hide him around the house. It's a fun thing, fun activity. And for me, I'm going to notice the differences in his mental stimulation, in his physical exertion during this process.
Absolutely.
Doing what's right for the dog.
Yeah. And, speaking of, we're all kind of hunkered down, sheltering in place. And, one of the silver linings is that we get to spend more time with our dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some fun ways you can implement Contra Freeloading, even if you don't have some of these toys that I've showed you. Like, for example, I'm going to show you one other, like, do-it-yourself treat toy. But then I've also got 2 other suggestions. Now, don't laugh, but like, this is my attempt at DIY. So I found this walnut cardboard thing in my pantry, and I just emptied it and poked holes with a knife. And I haven't put the kibble in here yet, but the holes should, again, be big enough for the kibble to fall out. Otherwise, you're going to have a very frustrated dog.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Don't do that. Make sure the dog can eventually get the food.
Yeah, right. And then they can roll it around and the kibble can fall out. But there's a couple of other really cool ways. And I learned this next one from Dr. Marty Becker. It's called broadcasting. Do you know what that is with food?
Well, yeah, I know, online or.
Well, yeah, right.
But not in this context.
Yeah, when it comes to feeding, it's kind of like you would feed chickens. Like, have you ever seen people throw the corn scratch out? You can literally take a handful of dog food and go out into the yard, or you can do this in your carpet too, but that's kind of gross. But throw it out in the yard, just kind of like toss it. And now watch your dog just go, just gobbling it up in the grass. They got to find it, sniff, find it. So that's another fun way that you could do it. And if your dog is larger, you could broadcast it on a little bit broader, just, use your common sense as to how tough to make it for your dog.
Yeah, right.
And then the third way you can implement this, and this is often done at zoos and in animal shelters, and that is you can freeze food or treats inside of ice. So like it could just be ice cubes. If anybody still has an ice cube tray out there.
Rare inventions.
Yeah. Or find something that'll work.
Back in my day, we had to make ice.
Exactly. But yeah, you could put your dog's kibble or even maybe their favorite treat, fill it up with water, freeze it. Now they have to work, they have to lick off the ice to get to it, or even freeze it in a bigger block of ice. And not only is it a great way to, engage them mentally and physically, but it's a great babysitter thing too. Like, we're working from home now. Yeah. And what happens if you got to do a client call? About an hour ago, I had to call a client. And so I gave Chili, it was a different kind of treat toy, but had frozen peanut butter in it, because I know that's going to keep him quiet for just long enough for me to do my call.
I love it. Awesome. Well, we do have a question. I want to thank Jana for she's # ditch the bowl.
I love it.
Same thing. I don't know if that's going to start trending afterwards. This is the question from Chris. My friend has a dog that suddenly goes absolutely bonkers when he sees other dogs. He barks and growls. My friend's afraid to now socialize him because of the reaction. He doesn't want to start a fight, although this hasn't happened. The dog has gone to prison boot camp twice. I don't know what that is, but it sounds
scary.
Great. Yeah, and also a private trainer. Maybe prison boot camp is like a boot camp, not like in prison.
I'm hoping that's what he means.
Yeah, I hope so too. And then what are the possibilities that are causing these new reactions? Some socializing challenges with other dogs.
Sure. So I can relate to this a little bit because Chili he's what we call a reactive dog. He's the nicest dog. He loves people. He loves other animals. But when he's on a leash, if we're walking him in our neighborhood and we approach another dog, he goes bonkers and acts like Cujo on a leash. It's so embarrassing. Like, we actually have neighbors who will be out walking their dog. They see us coming and they turn around and go the other way. Okay. And I did work with a trainer, because obviously this is a big problem. And I think this is similar to what they're saying. I don't know if it's when you're on a leash, or who asked the question? Was it Chris?
Chris, yeah.
Chris. if it's on a leash or if it's just inside the house, because Chili will do that also when he sees people walk in front of the house, he'll go crazy. But what the trainer taught me to do is now I always have treats with me on a walk. And when I see, and I also have a 6-foot leash, not the retractable kind. You want to keep him under control at my side. And if I see a dog approaching, I grab a handful of the treats and I do some really short commands like, sit, look at me, just distracting commands. And over time, and this is not something that you're going to solve in a day or two or even a week. It took probably 3 weeks of really being vigilant about doing this before we could actually pass another dog without Chili acting like a buffoon. And if you stop doing that, they can revert back to that behavior, which we have seen. But if your dog, Chris, if your dog is food motivated, this is a really great way. The hard part though is you've got to catch it before your dog reacts.
Okay.
So kind of set your dog up for that reaction, but intervene before, like right when he sees the dog, you're there with his favorite treat, distracting him.
Gotcha.
And then they start to think, they start to think, dog, ooh, my favorite treat. It just kind of changes their mindset.
So they could pick up maybe a bad habit, start it, you don't cut it off in time, now to be reactive and be proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah, exactly.
My dog Mickey's the same when we're walking. No one has turned away from us, but maybe you just live in a different neighborhood than I do. But yeah, he's the same way. When somebody walks by our house, he's barking as we thought it was protection, but we're trying to mitigate that as well. So
right. And also, and we tend to by accident reward negative behavior. Like, maybe your dog's getting attention when they act like that, and it could be attention that they see as positive. Yeah. So just be mindful about how you're potentially rewarding for the behavior you don't want, and try to intervene. And if you have to, set them up for a circumstance, like have a friend walk their dog by or something, set them up so that you can intervene and start that process of changing their behavior.
Oh, I like that, kind of setting them up.
Yeah.
You have a friend walk by and then set them up with the favorite treat. So then when somebody walks by, they get their treat and you're not reacting.
It's exactly what I did. I had a friend. I said, can you bring your dog over to my neighborhood? And so she came over and we just practiced walking back and forth, passing each other for about a half hour until I was getting the results I wanted. And then I would practice it just on my own time on regular walks. Yep. So you can fix that behavior, but it definitely takes some persistence and consistency.
Exactly. I think that's the key to dog training overall is persistence, consistency. And then, as you said before, not motivating or rewarding behavior that you don't want.
Right. Exactly.
So Carrie says great ideas for my husky, so maybe she'll try it out. And then Jana said she volunteers at a shelter, but we use a redirect with treats and what motivates them as you described. So she is using this in a shelter environment as well as inside. And Chris, he clarified the prison program is a training program with inmates of a local prison.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were all confused, but
the dog wasn't in prison.
Yes. Yeah. So I think that the dog goes there and trains with the inmates there. So maybe he picked up a bad habit from the other dogs. And then that new habit needs to be sort of corrected.
Sure. Exactly. There's lots of great articles online about reactive dogs that are, pretty much said what I just said, but give you more detail and more examples. So you can find some answers online.
Awesome. So if somebody wants to get started eliminating stress and boredom, where would you recommend the next feeding, try it? Make sure you buy all the stuff. What would you recommend?
Yeah. And well, if you have time to make something on your own, like my handy dandy little DIY treat feeder, try that, or just grab, the old muffin tin, or this is actually kind of a good project to do at home with the family. Like, get creative. We're all spending time together. Let's come up with some really creative ways to feed our dog in a way that will make them have to work for it.
Yep.
Maybe like I said earlier, hiding little bits of kibble or their wet food in bowls around the house. And then, of course, the easiest thing is to just do the broadcast method. If you have a yard where you could do that, just toss out the food and watch them, sniff it out and eat it. And then, if you'd like to order some of these toys online, I know a lot of the cool things are selling out on Amazon. I've noticed lately,
Yeah.
but but you probably don't want to wait till like May 30th for your shipment to arrive. But there still are some really great treat feeders available online that you can get delivered.
Cool. And one more question, and then we'll let you get onto it. What happens if somebody has a lazy dog? Someone's like, I've been #bowling for my entire life. Now you're trying to upgrade me. I'm going to refuse to eat.
Bowling.
I'm going to refuse to eat for a couple of days because I'm lazy and I don't want to work. What would you recommend, in that situation? Wait a couple of days for letting them get gone, or most dogs instinctually, there are some dogs that have maybe lost their canine heritage and of enjoying an easy life.
They've had it too easy for too long.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm pretty confident in the canine species. I think you should try it at your next feeding, or the next feeding that's convenient for you, where you could try one of these ways that we've shared with you. And it's entirely possible that your dog's going to look at you like you're crazy because like this is so different. But maybe start by feeding them a little bit less in their bowl. And then putting the rest of their food either in a treat toy or broadcasting it, or if it's wet food, putting it in little bowls around the house. Cool. You know what? Hunger is a great motivator. And I'm not suggesting you starve your dog, but I am suggesting that, I think there are plenty of ways to engage your dog in this behavior. And you might be surprised at how quickly they pick up on it.
Excellent. I love it. I love your motivation and inspiration for the canine species. Pro dog here.
That's right. What is it? Ditch the bowl?
#ditch the bowl.
Ditch the bowl.
I love it. Ditch the bowl. I love it. Well, Kristin, can you tell our audience about how to find you and follow along with all the amazing work in the pet space that you're doing?
Sure. On my blog, Pet Living, you can find it at KristenLevine.com, or just Google Pet Living and it'll come up. And, on my blog, I share tips and advice and have experts on to help you live your best pet life together and help you be the best pet parent you can be. So check me out online. And while you're on the site, we're actually doing a huge giveaway this week where we're giving away $750 in prizes from my partner Vetricin and a couple of other prize partners too. So if you just go to the website, there's a link there to the giveaway page and you can enter.
Awesome. We have to go search out this fun prize. It seems very similar.
It's kind of like Contra Freeloading for people.
I love it.
You've got to find it. I'm not going to make it easy for you.
I love it. She has confidence in the canine species. I don't know about human species as well. But go to Pet Living, check out some of our blogs, live the best pet life you can. Thank you, Kristin, so much for joining us. Thank you, audience, for being here. We have another one coming up tomorrow and all of next week and the rest of this week. Just trying to help you live your best pet life and live your best life during these challenging times. These times when we have to be inside, but the silver lining is we do get to spend a little extra time with our dogs. So again, Kristin from Pet Living, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. And thanks for what you guys are doing at DOGTV. You guys are awesome, and we appreciate all this great content that you're putting out for us.
You are very welcome. It's been an absolute joy to share this with our audience. So join us back tomorrow, same time. We have some incredible guests coming up, from boredom to the science, all anywhere in between. So you can enjoy this time as much as possible while we get through this. Well, Kristin, again, thank you. DOGTV Pack. Thank you. Make sure you turn on DOGTV maybe while you're feeding your dog. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you, guys. We'll see you tomorrow, same time.
Bye.